most of us who were going to join the call are on the call. So I want to get us started. Hi, everyone. My name is Millie Roach. I am the new Executive Director of Future Leaders in Action. I couldn't be happier to have you all join us today in celebrating our Summer 2021 Fellows on all of their hard work. I'm especially excited as this is my first time facilitating showcase presentations, and I'm delighted to be brought into this tradition. Today, we will hear from Jazmine, Diamond, Madeline, and Deanna about their projects and experiences as FLIA Fellows. I'm also going to, in the chat, include a program of our a schedule of our presentations in case anybody needs it. Before fellows take the stage, I will turn it over to our beloved founder and former executive director, Kirsten Abel, who is going to share a few words. So Kirsten, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I think some of you have attended showcase presentations in the past and some of you haven't. And this is one of my favorite parts of the fellowship. So usually throughout the 3 months, I get updates from fellows on how their project's going. And it's still so amazing at the end to see everyone present on the culmination of their hard work. And so I really appreciate that you all are here to witness the amazing accomplishments that they have done. This showcase is a bit bittersweet because it is the last showcase that I'll be attending where I worked closely with the fellows. And so I can say that there couldn't have been a better group of fellows to have worked with for the past 3 months, and sort of it was a really nice ending for my tenure as executive director. I really enjoyed working with the 4 of you and seeing your growth in the project and your confidence throughout the fellowship. So I thank you all for coming, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate with Millie and the board of directors to support our partners, fellows, and alumni. So I look forward to continuing to be involved, and I'll keep showing up to the showcase presentations, but I did just want to thank you all and sort of share a bit about what the experience is like for me. So thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten. We so appreciate you, and you are forever invited to all of our showcase presentations and everything that we do. We love to have you. Okay, so let's get started. So first up, we're gonna have Jazmine Benoit, who's been working at South Bronx United, share on her work this summer. So Jazmine, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello and good afternoon. My name is Jazmine Benoit, and thank you so much for taking the time to attend my presentation. So first, we're going to start off with, I'm going to give a little brief overview of my background. I was born and raised in the Bronx. I've spent most of my academic journey here as well. I graduated in May 2020 from Lehman College with a degree in sociology and childhood education, focusing on data analysis and research implementation. This fall, I will be attending Harvard's Graduate School for Education, and I will be the first graduating class in their Learning Designs, Innovation, and Technology program. I started my professional journey at the age of 17 as a group leader in an after-school program in the South Bronx. This after-school program was not entirely focused on homework help, but instead strengthening academic skills. So throughout the week, I had to teach core classes such as math, ELA, science, and history. I was given the complete creative freedom to create lesson plans. And keeping in mind that it was an after-school program, I tried to create and implement my lessons so that they were engaging and relevant. By the time I was 19, I was teaching a 9th grade college awareness and Regents prep elective at the Bronx Studio School for Writers and Artists. And once again, I had to completely create the curriculum on my own. I am proud to say that out of my 28 students, 80% of them went on to college or a trade school. And I like to think that my college awareness course played a role in that. However, at the time, I felt that my biggest impact in helping children was more on social work level, and I left the job and I became a social worker for NADAP. Even at this job, I was constantly looking for ways to create and improve the system and ways to train staff so that they can implement the best approaches. But I soon realized that social work wasn't the profession for me. And because I hadn't completed my degree yet, I quit and went back to school full time to pursue my education degree. It was there that I fell in love with causal evidence and data analysis, as well as figuring out the best way to implement research studies into classrooms that would have the biggest impact on child development. After graduating, I became a research assistant and continued building my skills in data analysis and R script. I was also an undergraduate teaching assistant for a quantitative analysis of sociological data course, in which I helped teach R script and SPSS. Soon after, I heard about this wonderful fellowship with FLIA. And what attracted me most about this fellowship was that I was going to be able to apply what I had learned through my undergraduate studies and be able to practice my program and curriculum development skills. I also saw this as a great opportunity to prepare myself for graduate school in the fall. So my partnership was with South Bronx United. This organization uses the love for the game of soccer to draw in their students. While enrolled into the soccer team, students must participate in academic rich programs throughout the year. One of those programs is the Summer Scholars Program. And this program was about 65 students from grades 6 through 12. And they participated in fun morning electives, cultural storytelling class, statistics and soccer class, ELA and math class. And students were also able to participate in afternoon soccer training and soccer games. This was a form of like preseason to get them ready for their soccer seasons in the fall. And in the summer, the theme, they always have a theme at SBU, and this summer was South Bronx University. And students were able to choose between 3 majors, which were computer science, where they designed and developed their websites, photojournalism, where they documented stories from camp, and business, where students started up their own companies and held pop-up markets to sell their products or service. And I taught this course with curriculum given to me by an organization called We Thrive. So within the summer program, South Bronx United wanted to redesign their positive behavior incentive system called Color Cup. And students are split into 4 groups and assigned a color and country. And groups are mixed age and gender to promote rapport and team building across all age groups. So students could also, under this positive behavior incentive system, students can earn individual points for positive behavior in the classroom, on the soccer field, and field trips. So these behaviors were rooted in SBU values of showing commitment, bringing integrity, and uniting the community. My task, or my project, was then to come up with the specific behaviors that students could get points for and the reward systems. Points that could be earned as a team, how Thursday morning Color Cup assemblies were structured, as well as all other team building activities, such as the end of program field day, how points were given and tracked, how to train students, how to train staff on the system, and how to introduce Color Cup to the students. So first, I started with getting to know the students during their after-school tutoring program. And I was able to distribute a survey that asked about behaviors that they like to get noticed for, how often they like to be rewarded, and how they liked being rewarded. I also was able to do interviews with some staff just to go over some behavior management issues that sometimes arise in their classrooms. And I also wanted to gear these behaviors so that it could deter some of those issues that might arise in the classrooms. So with this data, I started to create the behaviors that students can get points for and a reward system for their positive behavior. And during my fellowship, I was also taking summer courses with Harvard called How People Learn and Evidence. So I used what I was learning from these courses to help guide me in how I wanted to implement and create this system. I read lots of articles and research about student engagement through ideas focused on motivation and buy-in from both students and staff. So some of the behaviors that I came up with that students can get points for was not being afraid to ask questions or share, being positive towards other students' mistakes, um, including others, helping others, and so on. So for the reward system, on Mondays, in the first 5 minutes of the first period, classes engaged in what I called Shout Out Mondays. And basically, students who were in the individual point range from the week prior, so that was about 5 points and up, they were given a pin. And when they were given a pin or like a badge that they can put on their school lanyards, they were also given a public shout out for a positive behavior moment that they had in the previous week. Another reward system that I had created was a cash in SBU store. So basically, students were able to cash in their individual points for prizes. The majority of the population at SBU is along the poverty line. So I wanted to make this as engaging as possible. So some of the prizes that were in the SBU store was chips, drinks, and little trinket items that you might find in an arcade, such as like posters for your bedroom. A big popular item with them was light up yo-yos. They really liked getting their points and getting that prize. Also, there was team rewards. So the teams with the most points for the week got Pizza Party Mondays, and they were able to pick the team that they were going to go up against during Thursday morning assemblies. So I'll talk a little bit more about Thursday morning Color Cup assemblies. So Monday through Wednesday from 9 to 9:30, they're usually participating in a fun elective that they chose. But Thursday mornings were Color Cup assembly mornings. So when they arrived, they were to go to their assigned Color Cup teams. And during the first 5 minutes, I started it off with a morning discussion. And so staff was also assigned colors, and they were to facilitate discussion with students based on the day's affirmation. So this was really aimed to help staff and students gain rapport and a sense of relatedness, as this is one of the key components to sparking motivation. So the affirmations that I chose were: today I am successful, tomorrow I will be successful, never give up, never give in, everywhere I look, I see something to be thankful for, and I can take on any challenge despite fear. So the discussion questions included: what does success mean to you? What is something you are grateful for this morning? What does it look like to never give up? And to share with each other a challenge that you accomplished despite fear. So after the discussion, each group had to then one by one chant the affirmation as loud as possible. And the team that did this the loudest won 2 points for their team for that day. Then they would play team building activity games. And I carefully chose these games so that they were engaging, but also built upon team building skills. So at the end of camp, I was able to distribute a survey to both staff and students. And here are some of the results from the student surveys that really stood out to me. So when asked, did getting a point for good behavior make you want to keep doing good behavior? 90% of students said yes. And when asked, did you look forward to the Color Cup points store to exchange your individual points for prizes? 90% of students also said yes. And then also when asked if they looked forward to knowing what team won Pizza Party Monday, 80% of students said yes. I had also asked them some short answer questions. One of them was, what stood out to you about Shout Out Mondays? And here were some of the students' responses. So one student had said that earning those little pins made it feel like an important thing that they accomplished. Another thing that stood out was just knowing how they were doing, knowing what people did to get shout outs, and also the fact that most of their classmates got shout outs. I had also asked which affirmations stood out to them the most and why. And so the most popular choice was never give up, never give in. And some students responded that it stood out to them because it was motivating, because if they worked hard, they can make things happen. And if someone has this affirmation, they will keep trying. The next popular answer was, today I am successful, tomorrow I will be successful. And one student had wrote that this affirmation stood out to them the most because it helped them keep their head up throughout the day. Staff also reported enjoying Thursday morning affirmation discussions because it helped them to get to know the students more. And it was a good time for students to open up and talk about their lives and connect with one another. Now that the fellowship is coming to an end, I plan on taking all of the skills that I have learned through my partnership, as well as the fellowship and all of the workshops that we have been attending, and build upon those skills at graduate school. I will also like to continue to collaborate with South Bronx United to ensure that the system that I created can be replicated for future summer programs to come. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my presentation. I will now ask for any questions or comments.
Thank you so much, Jazz. That was awesome. So this is a good time to ask any questions. Feel free to add some questions in the chat.
Could we ask them live?
Absolutely.
So Jazmine, really awesome presentation. I took a bunch of notes, very inspirational. I have one quick question on the point system. What platform did you use to collect the points and then, manage the point system?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. I did spend quite a while trying to troubleshoot some issues with making sure that staff were able to document points. So what we had was each class was able to get a binder, and within the binder was kind of like an actual sheet that they can look at as the class was going on. So when they would award a point, I had also done some staff training where I taught them how to give proper praise, because praise should be very specific and not just a, oh, great job. So as they were giving down those points, they would put them onto this sheet. At the end of the week, I had also asked them to at least give 35 to 40 points throughout the week. And this was to ensure that no one staff member was giving more points than others, so that it was the results would be pretty fair. At the end of the week, I would collect all of those sheets, and then I would input them into a Google sheet that I had shared with all of the staff.
Great, thank you. A lot of hard work.
Yes, thank you.
Hello, I'd like to ask a question. By giving out badges or pins, do you feel that that would stigmatize or incentivize a student that didn't receive one?
Very great question. So I did run into that, and actually what I found was that towards the end of the program, after 3 weeks, I actually didn't give out pins. I decided to omit that from the component to see if that was even a factor that helped them be more engaged with the system. And I found that through the survey that most of the children were actually looking forward to the pin. And really, I made it so that the individual point range was about 5 points and up. And you got 1 point if you got to school on time. So technically, if you were in program every day, you would already have 4 points. And all you would need to do is at least gauge in a couple of positive behavior to get more points. So it actually showed that the majority of the people in the classes did get those shout outs. I made it so that it seemed as if like, oh, I really have to work hard to get the pins, but it also made it so that most students were able to get pins. And it seemed like from my data that when I didn't give out a pin, kids were actually really looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question. We have time for one more question. So anybody have a pressing one?
Hey, if not, I just want to say thank you to Jazmine. I'm the executive director at South Bronx United. Most of the rest of her team that she worked closely with are at Dorney Park with all the students today, riding on roller coasters and things. So I felt a little bad Jazmine wasn't joining them there today, but I know she was preparing art for this presentation and did amazing work over the course of the last couple months. And I just want to give her one more big shout out and thank you for all her work this summer. And I'm looking forward to hopefully staying in touch. So thank you, Jazmine, and thanks as well, Millie and the FLIA team for getting her here.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate your kind words.
Thanks, Andrew. So lucky to have you be a FLIA fellow, Jazz. Super impressed with your presentation. Everyone give her a round of applause or react on your Zoom. Awesome job. Thank you, Jazz. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next presentation. Diamond, who's been working at Fiverr Children's Foundation, is up next. Diamond, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Millie. Hi, everybody. My name is Diamond Black, and yeah, I'm one of the FLIA fellows this summer. I'm working with Fiverr Children's Foundation. So I made a presentation, a PowerPoint that I'm gonna share with you all. Just 1 second. Bear with me. It was kind of difficult to fit 3 months of work into like a 10-minute presentation, but I'll try to be as concise as possible. But yes, so my name is Diamond Black. My pronouns are she, hers, and like I said, I'm one of the fellows working with Fiverr. I was born and raised in Chicago, and I'm currently in Wisconsin at the University of Wisconsin, pursuing a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Political Science, and again, training fellow at Fiverr Children's Foundation. Fiverr is a comprehensive youth development organization that uniquely makes a 10-year commitment to each of its participants. All of the children come from under-resourced communities within New York with New York City, and then parts of Central New York. Basically, Fiverr, it should be used as a resource for anything that the kids could need, from after-school activities all the way up to college and career counseling. And yeah, so let's talk about my journey and how I got here. So I actually worked with Fiverr in 2019. I worked at Camp Fiverr as a summer camp counselor. They offer a 2-week-long summer camp program every year, free to their participants. So that's really awesome. But I realized working there that I was passionate about working with youth and creating safe and equitable spaces for the people around me. And I realized I was in a position to make change by using my education and my experience in order to provide opportunities and resources for youth who need them. So from that summer, I went back to school. I switched my major to a double major in psychology and political science. I feel like that would help me learn more about the impact of politics on communities and society, and just learn how to help people. So then after that, I decided to get active in my school community or my campus community. So I joined a few clubs. I was actually promoted to the executive board of student athletes supporting others at my school this past spring semester, sorry. And then I also am a student representative for 2 committees within the NCAA. So one is the Big Ten Equality Coalition, and the other is the Wisconsin Equity and Diversity Coalition, where basically I'm advocating for a safe space on campus and equitable changes for athletes and students on campus. So I felt like I had really nice roles within my campus community. And then professionally, I'm lucky to have had a good amount of experience. I've had 2 internships that were working in the government. So I worked at the Wisconsin State Assembly, and I also worked at the Arizona Secretary of State. Notably, when I worked for the Wisconsin State Assembly, I created a policy memo that was focused on reducing recidivism within the Wisconsin Department of Corrections. And I was actually asked to present that for a few state Congress members. So that was really, really cool. And through all of that experience, I learned a lot. I learned about the interconnectedness of politics and society, and just what the importance of legal awareness and then what role I could potentially play in that. And then through my role working with the local school district, I learned a lot about what goes on behind the scenes at schools and how they come up with their programming and stuff like that. And then also how to impact youth in a more educational setting. So luckily I've gained a lot of experience, and I was really excited to apply that to my fellowship at FLIA. So my project, basically the overview is I was going in and gonna do some overhaul on the existing staff training programs. So as you all know, the support, training, and development of staff is crucial to how a business is running. And so yeah, they just asked me to come in and make some changes, and then also create a leadership track addition to the existing staff training completely from scratch. So that was really cool. But let's get into the first part. So the first part of my project was simply the modifications and just things that could make their lives easier come staff training time. So basically, first I went in and created a 3-year calendar for them. So they needed to come up with ways to fit 13 workshops into their very busy schedule. As you can see, it's a little bit small, but all the things in black are events that they host, and they host these every month. So clearly it's very busy, and I had to do a lot of work to try to fit all the workshops in, but luckily it worked out. And that's just like a little snippet of the calendar that I created. Second was to create a pool of materials and resources. So basically I just went in and created things that I thought would be helpful to the workshops they were doing. So things like worksheets, activities, and anything that I thought would have been a helpful resource to them, I made. I even made an email template for them to reach out to internal and external facilitators so that their lives could be a little bit easier. And then lastly, I created overviews for each of the workshops. These were mainly going to be used for the facilitator requests, like I said earlier, and it would just help when it came time for these trainings that no one has to scramble and find information the day before or something. Everything is in this one document. You know exactly what you need to do and what needs to be covered in the lesson. And I even tried to include specific learning objectives for each workshop. So that was a lot. So I'm just going to summarize. Basically, I planned and described every single Fiverr U workshop, included plans for facilitation, created some lesson guidelines, and created a pool of materials for those workshops. So the second part of my project was creating a leadership track component to the staff training. And I named that SEED, which stands for Skill Enhancement and Employee Development. And basically SEED is a 1-year-long leadership training program that just would work to give an internal opportunity for staff development and just give them a chance to improve their own leadership skills. So applicants have to be recommended into the program by a senior level staff member, and then they go through an application process. And also in this program that I created, so there's 4 workshops, and then there's also a mentorship opportunity, and then there's a group project. And I was thinking about including a peer mentor opportunity as well once the project, well, this was an idea, but once the project goes on for a few years. But yeah, so let's just get into the workshops, because that's the biggest part of it. So basically I went in and picked 4 workshops that I thought would have been the most helpful to giving the staff, and alumni are allowed to apply to, alumni of Fiverr. So giving those people whatever tools I think they needed in order to be leaders within Fiverr and then within their community. So the first one was just a personal values and mission. I've done many workshops like this throughout my internships and stuff, and I always thought they were helpful. And they give you a good glimpse on what your career goals are and like how you should be planning out the things you want to do. So I think that finding their own values and coming up with a mission statement will help keep participants on course throughout the program, while also allowing them to like take a deep introspective look at what they want to do. And the next workshop would be social and supervisory styles. So basically they're going in and learning what their supervisory and social styles are. And those are really important to know as a leader, because they will greatly influence the way that you interact with your peers and your colleagues. The third one is shared visions of success. This one is crucial because it asks the group to take like group accountability for the environment that they want to create for each other and what the overall goals are and the success of the organization. So in this workshop, I really like this one because, like I said, they're really working together and also like analyzing the goals of the organization, while it also gives an opportunity to like work together and combine their individual answers, and incorporate their values as a collective. And then the last one is just effective facilitation. So basically, this was just essentially tips that would help them become better leaders and be able to lead workshops, because post-workshop, there are a few things that they need to do. So the mentorship, this is actually during, so hopefully they'll meet with their mentor a few times and gain a reason or meaningful relationship with them. And there's also a group project. So at the end, basically, they'll be grouped up and they're gonna be asked to analyze any kind of issue that Fiverr may have and come up with a solution to it. And basically they're gonna present this to board members, and hopefully this can be a way for this program to be in fact impactful within Fiverr's infrastructure, while also like giving the participants an opportunity to utilize everything that they've learned throughout the programming. Some other things are participants will also be asked to facilitate workshops once they complete the program. So in their years following, hopefully they will become really good leaders and they'll be able to lead some good workshops so that we can, or Fiverr can rely on them in the future to lead. And also at the end, participants will receive some type of certification. So I made a certificate, and then I also created a bunch of resources like resume tips and LinkedIn ideas and stuff like that that they could use for when they complete the program. And then they also will be offered a stipend of up to $1,000. So I think that was a really good incentive to get people to sign up. And I think that we'll have a good amount of people that enroll in this program this coming fall. So what is the point of all this? Basically, the hope is that through SEED, participants gain the leadership capabilities to become leaders and create change within Fiverr through the group project, and eventually use that to change their communities and society as a whole. After this program, participants will definitely be given the skills to be leaders and to promote change. SEED also has the purpose of meeting the needs of Fiverr staff. So giving them an internal opportunity for professional development shows that Fiverr is committed to the staff, and it also provides a growth-focused staff culture. So what is the lasting impact? Well, hopefully this plan or this training program is implemented in the following years. I know for sure that it'll be used this fall. I made a few social media like flyers so that they can start posting those and start getting some type of attention to those. So that's exciting. But the actual implications will be better support and just better programming for youth, because the staff will be better trained. The staff will feel better about their jobs because they know that Fiverr is willing to provide opportunities for them, and also they will be more educated. Staff will be able to better advocate for youth and just be better leaders altogether by the end of this. So that's just a little list of the implications. But so my personal impact, I feel like I learned a lot through my time at FLIA. I'm glad I was given the opportunity to work on something independently and kind of come up with my own thing from scratch. And I was really glad that I was given the creative freedom to do that. So thank you. And through FLIA, I learned a lot. I definitely gained some networking skills, and I'm glad to just be able to join this community of people that I know will be there for me, and I'm glad to be connected with them. So going forward, I still have a year of my undergrad, so I'm doing that. And once I finish that, the hopes are that I go to grad school, but I just want to work in any way that will impact communities positively. I'm open to considering some kind of educational policy role, or also maybe even law school. So I'm not 100% sure, but just seeing kind of where the road takes me. But all in all, thank you all for listening. I really appreciate y'all joining, and thank you. Here's my contact information just in case, and I'll also put this in the chat. So yeah. Oh, sorry. Does anyone have any questions?
Awesome job, Diamond.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. No questions. Just wanted to congratulate Diamond on a job well done. We're so happy that you are part of the Fiverr family, and just want to thank Fleia again for your amazing partnership with Fiverr over the past couple of years. And I have a couple of colleagues on the call. Today's our first day of our last session of camp, so it's a little busy. So our program team's a little tied up right now, but just wanted to represent Fiverr and tell everyone thank you, and thank you, Diamond.
Any other questions or feedback for Diamond?
I'll ask a quick question, Diamond. Is there anything that you can share that is a lesson that you learned through this process that you want to do more of, do less of, or not do? You know, something that you learned that wasn't part of what you expected.
Wow, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. Yes, I feel like there are a lot of things I was able to learn outside of just the typical like lesson planning and stuff. Even though I did enjoy doing that. That was something that was definitely new to me, but I liked creating that and getting the more of the behind the scenes feel of like what goes on, and the more I feel like it's kind of like human resources aspect because of the staff training. So I thought that was really interesting. But I think I've learned that I would probably prefer a more hands-on role, like definitely interact more directly with the kids, but I do like having some type of role in the programming. So making lessons and noting and analyzing the ways that they can impact. But something I learned that was like outside of what I was expecting was how many kids do not have a certain like environmental awareness. I'm sorry, this is kind of like unrelated to what I was saying earlier, but this is just something I learned. And I was just throughout my time working at Camp Fiverr, it was just amazing how many kids would um, just didn't know anything about the environment, didn't know that like careers in the environmental field existed, or that these opportunities even were out there for them. So I think that going forward, I want to do some work in that field because I really feel like I'm in a position to educate younger people on something like that and just help them realize that like there are things you can do outside of I don't know, the typical jobs, like not the typical job, but the typical fields that are not science and specifically environmental education. So yeah, that was a lot. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'm so glad I asked the question because the answer was completely unexpected and something very inspirational for me and additive. So thank you for your, honesty and sharing with us.
Well, thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you again, Diamond. That was a really phenomenal presentation. Okay, so next up we have Madeline Peak, who was at Campfire Heart of Iowa. Madeline, you're up.
Hi, I'm Madeline. I'm gonna also share my screen quickly. Okay, I'm assuming everyone can see this. So I am Madeline Peak. I use she, her pronouns, and I worked on a program evaluation project with Campfire Heart of Iowa this summer. So a little bit about me, I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I just graduated from Grinnell College with a double major in Spanish and Gender, Women's, and Sexuality Studies. Graduated this May, and now this summer I've been working as a program evaluation fellow with Fleia at Campfire Heart of Iowa in Boone. So my professional journey, I have worked for many years as a swim instructor and lifeguard all throughout high school and college over the summers and during the school year, and also worked as a swim coach of a swim team in Grinnell during my years there. And then the past 2 summers, I worked as an independent researcher at Grinnell, doing a Mentor Advanced project about minor league baseball in Latin America and the Caribbean. So that's a little picture of I made a website. I collected oral histories of minor league baseball players and put them onto a website and everything. So that's my journey up until this point. And then this summer, my task was to identify the needs of youth and families with youth in Central Iowa, and then to identify ways that Campfire Iowa could meet some of those needs to a greater extent. So I conducted 3 types of research. I conducted interviews, I sent out surveys, and just did research, general research of the existing literature out there. So throughout my project, I started off by kind of using these 5 strategic commitments to guide my project and like the methodology and everything. So Campfire, like their national office, has put out these commitments in this 5-year vision to advance diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, to engage in actively anti-racist practices, to address and end cultural appropriation, to honor the power of young people with meaningful participation in decision-making, and to promote environmental stewardship and action. So those were kind of the directions that I took in terms of what kinds of things I was researching, and then also how I was conducting the research. I wanted to make sure to include youth voices in the decisions that are affecting youth. So to start off, I made a list of organizations around Central Iowa that either provide similar services that camp is already doing or are related to the goals that I just mentioned, and then looking at their strategic plans and annual reports to see what kinds of things they're doing and how that's working for them. And then we contacted them. We've been contacting a list of these organizations to kind of create connections for potential partnerships, and then sending out surveys that I made asking what services they provide, and then what are the most pressing needs of youth and families with youth that they're seeing in the communities that they serve right now. And then I also created surveys to send out to families of campers, which have not actually been sent out yet, so I don't have the results of those yet, but they're going to be sent out with their end of summer surveys with some similar questions about what needs they're seeing in their communities. And then I also met with the Chief Strategy Officer of the Campfire National Office to talk about the trends that she's seeing in youth development in general, and what other Campfire councils are doing across the country, to kind of get ideas for what Campfire Iowa could potentially do. And I, throughout the summer, did a lot of just general research on the existing studies and plans and reports that have already been done related to the areas that Campfire is interested in expanding in. So then what I think is the most important part of my project was I conducted a bunch of camper interviews. So I think this really goes along with valuing youth voices and input. I interviewed 84 campers total, 16 kind of focus groups of around 5 campers per group, with ages ranging from 10 to 17, so a pretty wide range. And obviously some interviews were more fruitful than others. Some of them lasted only 5 minutes and some lasted 40, because I asked the same 4 questions to each group to kind of keep consistency. But all of them came up with pretty similar topics, which was really interesting. So the 4 questions that I asked them were, what is your favorite part of camp? What's your least favorite part about camp? What's an issue you see in your life that you or other people your age are facing, that adults around you aren't addressing? And then to identify ways Campfire could meet more needs, I asked if you could imagine or create a program that would help you or other people your age, what would that look like? Or like, what's something that's needed in your community that is not there right now? Which went in conjunction with a question in the family survey about, like, are there ways that you think Campfire could potentially help meet the needs that you're seeing? So the themes of these interviews obviously could go a lot more in depth than this 10-minute presentation, but general overall themes of just the interviews, mental health was mentioned by 11 out of 16 of the groups. Issues facing LGBTQ youth specifically was mentioned by 10 out of 16 of the groups. Racism was mentioned by 6 out of 16. Bullying was mentioned by 12 out of the 16. And then 11 out of 16 mentioned something about not being taken seriously for like their age and like being treated younger than their age, which I think made it all the more important that we were kind of valuing their voices in this project. And then climate change was mentioned by 3 out of the 16 kids. And lastly, something that I think is important to note is that 6 out of 16 groups mentioned that camp is an important support environment for them, and that so 13 out of the 16 said camp, or their favorite part of camp is the relationships or something about the people and the connections they're making. So I think that's important to remember when thinking about ways of expanding programming, that camp is a safe space for a lot of these kids, and that's important to kind of build off of. So then the survey results, we don't really have significant connections yet because only 5 organizations have replied to the survey so far, but all of them have been saying pretty similar things to the general research trends. So anticipating we'll be adding those results in as the family surveys come in as well. And then the final kind of last few themes that have been appearing through the research of community needs are linguistic barriers, specific issues facing Indigenous youth, transportation and housing, and then gender disparities are kind of the last ones that were not quite as often mentioned in the camper interviews, but still obviously prevalent. So then after going into all of that, I just want to say that obviously you have to think about intersectionality of all of these issues as well. So it's really hard to, and you shouldn't separate all of those issues into neat little categories like I just did, because obviously they all affect youth at the same time in different ways. So I want to definitely take the time to kind of complicate these issues a little bit more, but not for this presentation because it has to be shorter. So then as for my recommendations, there's kind of a broad range of recommendations because there's no one specific thing that I think, or my project is not recommending just one specific thing. There are a lot of different things that could be done, like smaller scale and larger scale. So I think the biggest thing is potential partnerships with these community organizations that have been identified. So continuing to contact them and maintain contact with them to see what kind of partnerships could be formed to meet some of these needs to a greater extent. So the organizations that have replied so far are listed below just to the surveys, but there's a list of like 30 more that I think could be potential partners depending on how that goes. And then changes in staff training is something that came up in a few of the camper interview recommendations, which I think would be useful as well. So more training related specifically to LGBTQ+ youth and BIPOC youth. And I think something that one of the campers said was that, as an example, like maybe they should explain more like why pronouns are important, as opposed to just you need to say your pronouns and that's it, which I don't think that's exactly how they describe it in the staff training as is, but I think it's really important. Something that came up in my research is the importance of critical pedagogy. So being transformative rather than regurgitative, really understanding why these issues are important and how they affect youth. And then another potential addition to staff training could be more training related to mental health. That's something that, or 8 out of the 16 groups specifically suggested that a camp therapist would be important, which I think is probably not a realistic goal, but I think that it could be possible to maybe have training related to mental health for the staff, either for everyone, or it could be like optional additional training so that there could be specific staff members that kids would know they could go to. And then in addition to that, I think more intentional staff recruiting and hiring. This is happening at other campfire councils across the country too. It was mentioned that Portland is doing a good job of this.
Look at that. Ready to get tattoos?
So, and this is something that Campfire Iowa has also started doing. So I think just continuing this process would be important. There has been mention of recruiting or like giving scholarships to more diverse counselor and training campers. So like leadership campers who become staff members eventually. And then the idea of raising wages if that is possible, because there's obviously a very specific group of people who can usually afford to spend a summer working as a counselor if wages are so low and not worrying about having to make more money. And then another recommendation that came up in camper interviews was maybe a camp for specific demographics of campers. So I know that there's one Campfire Council, Tulsa has LGBTQ specific camp for like a week of the summer. So I'm not sure if that's something that would be useful, but it would be, I think, interesting to look more into what that council thinks about it. And then my final recommendation is more of like further commitment to decolonization, like further than just ending cultural appropriation in the camp. So I think starting with a land acknowledgement on the website would be pretty simple. And that's something that a lot of other councils have done. So it could be modeled after that. And then I know that nationally they're partnering with the National Indian Education Association, and this fall will be connecting local councils with their local councils. So continuing that. So then for myself, after that's the end of my project this summer, but next year I'm moving to Spain for a year to teach English with the Auxiliares de Conversación program through the Spanish Ministry of Education. I'll be in La Línea de la Concepción in September. So that's my plan for the near future. After that, I honestly do not know specifically what I want to do. I'm still in the process of figuring that out. So this fellowship has been helpful for that. But I'm thinking about ELL teaching as an option, or else something to do with immigration or reproductive justice, potentially law school related to that, but I'm not sure about that at this point. So that's where I'm heading. And that's my contact info. So that is my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Madeline. Any questions for Madeline on her project or anything else she mentioned?
Well, I'll ask the same question that I asked Diamond. What was an aha moment for you that you didn't expect? Something, we go into every kind of effort with our own filters, a predisposition based on what we know, what we've studied, what we've seen. What was something that really hit you like, wow, I had no idea this was X?
That's a really good question. I think, honestly, I don't know if this was necessarily surprising, but something that really struck me throughout the summer was how much, or like how aware young people are of all of the issues going on around them and affecting them, which like, I don't think I was really surprised by that. I think that's definitely why I wanted to incorporate like camper interviews, but like the more interviews I did, the more kind of threads were connecting them, the more exciting it was. And like there were definitely some that were like, my favorite part of camp is the candy, and my least favorite part is when we have to walk really far. And so, but then there were others obviously that had a lot of deeper ideas, and that was really good to see, or interesting to see.
I bet that Jazmine, in her passion for understanding, the data and translating it into action, would love to know what would be like, what sets those kids apart from the candy kids? Like, what was going on with the lives of the kids that are so hyper aware of the issues versus the kids that love the candy and hate the walking? Like, I'm super curious about that. Not that we can answer that question right now, but something to think about.
Yeah, that's definitely something I was thinking about as I was doing the interviews too, because I didn't really take into account much information, like personal information about the campers, like demographic information. I just got like their ages, and like they were in groups too, so I didn't have really much more information than that. But obviously their lived experiences affect what their answers are, and then kind of within the groups too, some of them, I think the direction of the conversation depended on where, like if one kid said, oh, I like the candy, everyone else would be like, oh, me too, and then it would kind of go into that direction. So yeah, it's interesting to see how that affects it.
Thank you for the great insights you shared. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I took a ton of notes.
Okay, if there are no other questions, we're going to move into our last presentation for the day. So last but certainly not least, Deanna Robinson, who's been working at Jules Academy this summer, is going to share more on her experience and project outcomes.
Let me share my screen with you. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Deanna Robinson. I'm the Program Outreach Fellow at Jules Academy, a nonprofit organization in Des Moines, Iowa, which offers STEM and leadership programming for underrepresented young women in grades 4 through 12. I am originally from California and have also lived in Kansas. I attended the University of Iowa as an undergrad and completed my bachelor's in political science and earned a certificate in nonprofit management. I'm currently working towards my master's in public affairs with a concentration in both nonprofit and public management and public policy. I've enjoyed the opportunity this summer to promote Jules Academy programs, which serve to promote positive female role models, reduce bias, and provide STEM enrichment opportunities outside of the classroom, which bolster the confidence and the skills of girls, especially those in elementary and middle school. Microsoft recently surveyed over 6,000 young women examining their attitudes towards careers in STEM. These young women reported underestimating their abilities in math and science as early as the 2nd grade when they first identified with the belief that they were, quote, bad at math. At Jules Academy, they work to bolster foundational skills and provide positive experiences in math and science before negative attitudes regarding abilities become irreversible. I started out by operating my own health documentation organization. I served a small hospital and family clinic practice in the Midwest. I then joined Alliance Health Documentation and found a great deal of satisfaction in coordinating the completion of timely medical documentation for a regional hospital system, which served 1/3 of that state's population. I managed over 100 staff members across multiple platforms, always maintaining turnaround times and 98% accuracy, but I found something was just missing. Whenever I read about phenomenal women making a difference in the lives of others, working towards more equitable communities, I was envious. I wanted to do that work. I wanted to live my values and stand up for the things that I cared about. So I enrolled in college and decided to volunteer at the Community Crisis Center as a basic needs assistance interviewer. Then, whenever paternalistic policies were discussed in class, I was able to consider the viewpoint of Community Crisis Center clients who were caught in a never-ending game of leapfrog as they navigated one government agency after another. We know that when policies are designed, who gets what, when, and how correlates with social constructs. My experience at Community illuminated these concepts and the resulting inequities in vivid technicolor. During COVID, I began working as a teaching assistant and found myself leading a section discussion for a general ed course designed for non-majors in a Zoom room at 8 a.m. This is where I learned the phrase, lean into the silence. I discovered it's really an underrated skill with many applications. COVID also provided the opportunity to research and present policy proposals to the city of Waterloo, Iowa regarding the potential for an eviction crisis when the COVID-19 eviction moratorium ended, policies which happily they opted to adopt. My primary objective as Program Outreach Fellow for Jules Academy this summer was twofold. First, I created a strategic communication plan for their first fundraiser. This was challenging as I began my work on May 24th and the fundraiser was June 26th. Much of the planning had begun, but there was much work yet to be done. In the next phase, I created a strategic plan to increase social media engagement and promote the rollout of Project Enrolled, a new program developed with the University of Iowa Jacobson Institute curriculum, which provides an opportunity to earn college credit for high school students who complete the course. Project Emerald develops skills in leadership, team building, science, technology, and financial literacy to prepare students for college and career. My approach was to conduct research on best practices for press releases, sponsorships, and social media engagement. Deliverables included press releases sent to 225 media outlets and 25 Iowa Chambers of Commerce, 185 personal invitations and 5 email campaigns completed through MailChimp, as well as a social media calendar which details scheduled content created for twice-weekly posts for the next 12 months, intended to create awareness about STEM education and careers and to boost the programming offered at Jules. From May 25th to August 11th, the Jules Academy website, Facebook site reached over 220,000 people on Facebook, which was a 93.9% increase over the previous 80-day period. Engagement also increased 102%, in addition to the 60 new followers, which is a 10.7% increase. Instagram followers increased during this time period from 256 to 275, which was an increase of only 7.4%, which was 2.6 short of our goal. However, Jules averaged 40 profile visits each month on Instagram, which was an increase of 17% over the previous 80 days. I have also prepared a final report, which will be delivered to Dr. Wayne, in addition to the full social media calendar for the next year. My future plans are to return to the University of Iowa, where I will complete my last year of my program and continue to TA in person now, as well as intern with the Housing Fellowship, a nonprofit affordable housing organization in Iowa City. I will be studying and conducting research in housing policy, as well as higher ed policy, and participating in an informal research group on campus where I can network with others who are interested in the problem of basic needs and security, in hopes I will find a way to turn my niche career aspirations of creating change in federal housing policies on college campuses into a reality. At this time, I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hi, this is Maureen Tobin. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm not on video.
We can, Maureen.
Okay,
Yes.
I have kind of an out of the box question, but since I hear you have gone to Iowa City and also worked at Jules Academy, I wonder whether you are familiar with the Bell and Blank Center at the University of Iowa, and therefore if there would be any connections that could be made between Jules Academy and the Bell and Blank Center.
I am not familiar. I think that Dr. Wayne is on the call and she could answer questions about connections.
Never heard of it, Maureen. It's Bell and Blank Center.
Yeah, it's called the Bellin, BELIN Blank Center. And I think they try and recruit, you know, young high school students who are interested in STEM education. And that's why I was thinking, it occurred to me because of the Iowa City connection. And I don't have any connections personally, but just having heard the presentation and having followed you on Instagram and so forth, just occurred to me that there might be some similarities in terms of both education and motivation and just learning models.
I will follow up. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Deanna, I don't have a question, but I just want to say, Deanna, thanks so much for hitting the ground running. When the first day she started off, she had probably 20 action items, and she completed them all within 5 days that first week. And I think we started very heavy, but because of you hitting the ground running, we've exceeded our fundraising goal. I don't think you know those numbers, but just know that we went 3-4 times more than what we even thought we were going to see for that fundraiser. And because of your work, that helped us get there. And then just all the social media digital imprint has increased. So we thank you and the FLIA for this Opportunities Fellowships. And it was an excellent project. It was a lot. There was a lot going on, but you hung in there. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much for the compliment. I appreciate that.
This is Maureen again. The only other comment I would have, because you are again so connected in so many different ways to the different organizations in Iowa, I would say the way that I became aware of Jules Academy was because I'm on the Iowa State Foundation Board and heard a great presentation by Jules Academy and thought that FLIA could, provide a fellow. And so in the small world of things, I'd only ask that you continue to make those connections with other organizations you're working on and Jules, because I love this model. I just think it's absolutely fantastic and something that certainly deserves a lot more attention in the future.
Well, thank you so much, Deanna, for your fabulous presentation and all of your hard work this summer. Our fellows have had a tremendous impact on the organizations that they've been working at. And so we thank our fellows, we celebrate them today. So again, thank you all. We're so proud of you. We're gonna wrap up our showcase presentations event. I will follow up with a recording of this event with some timestamps in case you wanna look back on some of what our fellows have shared. In addition, I will share their contact information and their decks if they would be so kind to share them with us all. So thank you again for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And I hope to stay in touch and see you all soon. Thank you. Have a great rest of your Friday.
Thank you, Millie.